Paltrocast now with Darren Paltrowitz. Get ready to listen to your favorite artists. The Paltrocast is starting real soon. New interviews, no auto-tune. The Paltrocast now. It's the Paltrocast now. It's the Paltrocast now. Paltrocast.
Thank you for checking out episode number 56 of the Paltrocast with Darren Paltrowitz. This episode features interviews with three different entertainers who I really like the latest work of, and those are Ricky Starks, Pauly Shore, and Taylor Goldsmith from Dawes. First up is my interview with Pauly Shore. Yes, that Pauly Shore. The Pauly Shore that I grew up watching the movies of in the early 90s and beyond. The Pauly Shore that never really stopped working over the past few decades, who still tours nonstop. I mean, pre-COVID-19, of course, although he does have a show coming up in Vegas soon. The Pauly Shore that came from the lineage that founded the Comedy Store in LA, the comedy club that helped make countless iconic comedians that we're still talking about today. Pauly and I spoke about his then new movie called Guest House, which is available through all your favorite on-demand services as we speak. Actually, a very funny movie that shows a darker side of Pauly, still funny, but a darker side than I've seen in any other movie he's done. This one was originally done for the Jewish Journal, hence a little extra talk about Judaism right there, but you do not have to be Jewish to like this one, trust me. Great guy, I enjoyed talking with him, and I hope to talk to him and talk with him again soon. Pauly, how's it going there today?
L'chaim, good yontif to you, my fellow Jew.
Does anyone in the world call you Paul, or is it just Pauly to everybody?
No, my dad called me Paul, and Mike Binder calls me Paul, and then who else? I think that's it.
Got it. So I will call you Pauly and congratulate you on Guest House. Was any of the film actually improvised? Because it looks like whenever you make a movie that there's some improvisation in your dialogue.
Yes. Definitely. It's similar to my stand-up. You know, my stand-up is the same way, where I go up there with, with my bits, but then, I'm like a surfer, I drop into the scene and you never know where Pauly Shore goes. I take a lot of chances, and hopefully the actor, can run with me, but they kind of know what they're getting into with me, so, I just, I improvise and, we do it.
You definitely do it. When did you make Guest House?
It was last year sometime. Last year, yeah. 2019.
Because sometimes with movies, they don't come out for 3 or 4 years, so it can be a little bit confusing on that end. Is the movie that you signed up for totally the movie that appears on the film or screen, or did a lot change?
No, it's pretty much the same. It's exactly how I wanted it. I wanted comedians that I thought were really talented to be sprinkled throughout the film. So you have Bobby Lee, you got Eric Griffin, you got Punky Johnson, you got, who else do you have? I don't know, you got Steve-O's in it. So, they sprinkle it. And then, it was important for me, my character can easily become or come off unlikable. It was important for me to soften the character in the film, so it didn't come across obnoxious, but came across relatable as this crazy person that doesn't want to leave the guest house. It's a very relatable subject, especially now. There's probably with all this quarantine, there's probably a lot of people that are stuck in people's guest houses or in the back that won't leave, and because of the laws and the rules, it's kind of pro-tenant, you know what I mean, which is kind of funny. So this guy kind of leans on that,
Right. People who listen to a lot of your content know that you were smart about renting out your house while living in a smaller house and all that. So I'm sure that you know a thing or two about a tenant situation with guest houses.
Yes, I'm very fortunate. I'm going to knock on wood right now. Boom, boom, boom. That the people that are leasing out my property, they're on time and respectful. The house that I live in Vegas, I paid 6 months up front. You know what I mean? Just to make the guy feel good.
Well, that's the great businessman I've come to expect. One of the comics that's in Guest House that is a regular at the Comedy Store is, of course, Eric Griffin. That's not one of the names you said. Something unique about Eric was that he was in that show I'm Dying Up Here, which was loosely based on the Comedy Store. Was that something you ever talked about with him?
I did, but it was funny. It was always kind of like a subject, you know what I mean? Because I didn't really like it. I didn't really, like how it kind of came across. I don't know. It was just kind of like, to me, it was like, I thought it was okay, but, it's hard for me to look at it because it was based off of the store and my mom. So it's just like, I don't know. It was just kind of like one of those subjects we didn't really talk about, But, at the end of the day, actors get offers. People want to work, and that's it. It's like whether I like something someone did or don't, it's not really your business. People need to work and put food on their table, so,
And, of course, you've never stopped working. I've seen Adopted, Pauly Shore is Dead, Pauly Shore Stands Alone. You've never stopped creating, which is an incredible thing about you. Are you writing every single day? Because before you mentioned improvising a lot, and we do see that you have the podcast, random rants, and the karaoke videos and all that.
Yes, I'm constantly doing stuff. That's kind of what I do. A pilot flies a plane. Pauly Shore creates content. And that's all I do. I create content. If they take away the stage from me on stand-up, then I'll create stuff in my house, which I'm doing and I'm excited about. So life is about shifting. You have to shift, it's like going to prison. You go to prison, you have two ways to be. Number one, you can be pissed off and not do anything, or number two, you can get a college education,
Wow, that is a fresh perspective.
Yeah.
And I mentioned before random rants and all that. The Rancho Quattro is becoming kind of a breakout success within the Pauly Shore world. And we get to see you doing great karaoke. I remember you had, for a long time ago, done a karaoke take on Unskinny Bop for a Bret Michaels tribute record. Is that ever in your repertoire these days?
No, I'm not doing Bret. I'm not going to do Unskinny Bop. No, absolutely not. That was terrible. Why even bring that up? Jesus Christ.
That was comedy art. I think that one of the things that you can gather from watching Pauly Shore is sometimes things are face value and sometimes the things are a little smarter and people don't quite get it right away.
I'm excited about the Rancho Quattro here in Vegas. I'm excited about Random Rants and my new series, which we're going to be launching in the next probably 2 to 3 weeks. It's called Sweatin' with the Wheeze. Because everyone thinks I look like Richard Simmons, so I'm going to lean into that, and I'm going to do workout videos in my backyard with, like, a dance partner. And every Monday we're going to release a new, 3-minute, hey, get out of bed and, let's start our week off. You know what I mean?
Right. So kind of on a bigger scale here, as a guy who's always creating, who starred in big movies, who continues to work nonstop, is there anything you haven't yet accomplished that you're still hoping to one day?
I would love a really good director that's well respected in the business to say, you know what, I'm going to have Pauly Shore play the third lead, in this action comedy, like the Joe Pesci role or something like that, where it's not leaning on me, where I'm kind of like playing off of, Denzel Washington or something like that. You know what I mean? I would love to play off of like a serious actor that's famous, where I'm not like the lead,
So it sounds like in the case of Dice, how people realized that as he got older that it was a character and he could really act, that you're in a similar boat where not everybody realizes that this whole time you've been a great actor and so convincing that maybe they didn't pick up on it.
Correct.
Well, That's pretty cool to hear that you have acting aspirations and all that. Is the Comedy Store still being run by you, or did you kind of delegate that in moving to Vegas?
Yeah, Peter and Scott, my brothers, they're running it. I'm not really involved. I'm kind of like moving on from that, you know. I mean, I'm in the documentary, The Comedy Store, that's coming out. The Comedy Store's got a 5-part documentary series that's coming out in October. I think October 4th. It premieres every Sunday for 5 weeks. So I'm in that, and you know, obviously the store is who I am. It's my childhood, and I'm also going to be doing a one-man show about my life, which I've been developing for the last couple of years and performing it. My childhood growing up at the store. So you know, it's kind of like I don't want to be running the Comedy Store. You know, I'm 52, and I just want to, you know, I want to focus on making people laugh and you know, and creating content, you know.
Well, as we're coming up here on the 10-minute mark, 2 quick questions and then you're free. And the first one is, where does all the energy come from? Are you a big coffee guy or energy drink guy?
No, I think it's from my mom and dad. I think having both of them inside of me, because my mom was a workaholic and my dad was as well. My dad was always performing and always doing shows. So I think a combination of having them both, you know, Mitzi Shore, Sammy Shore, you know, I'm the baby, you know, I'm them, they're inside of me, so that has a lot to do with it. And then also just, you know, it's what I do, you know, it's like my purpose in life is to create stuff. You know, some people's jobs are, you know, a doctor's job is to, you know, go and operate. My job is to create stuff, and that's what I do every day. You know, I'm just constantly, I have tons of ideas, and the great part about the internet is you can do it and just put it out there, and you know, and it's my stuff's very focused, you know, it's very focused. It's not all over the place. Like, you can understand what it is. Even in the movie Guest House, it's very simple. It's just about a guy living in a guest house that won't leave. That's it. That's the idea. It's not anything else but that. And then you get all the other stuff in it, you know. So I'm all about simplicity.
And the last quick question before you go, when and where was Pauly Shore bar mitzvahed?
I unfortunately was not bar mitzvahed, but I did go to Israel after my mom passed, and I had a little, you know, I was kind of reborn there. I felt connected. I had my hands on the wall, and I spent a lot of time in Jerusalem, and so I felt like that was like a little cleansing. I definitely want to go back to the Holy Land. It was pretty special for me being over there, being Jewish, and being over there. Both my parents never went to Israel. A lot of Jews, they just don't go to Israel. It's crazy. You know what I mean? That they've never been, and it's so special over there, you know? It's wild. So
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for your time. Looking forward to interviewing you when the Comedy Store documentary comes out. But thank you for your time, and congrats on everything.
Good Yontif. Good Yontif.
Great Shabbos. Take care.
Later, bud.
Paltrocast.
Next up is my interview with Taylor Goldsmith, the singer and primary songwriter behind the band Dawes. The next album from Dawes will be out on October 2nd. It's called Good Luck with Whatever. A few songs from it are already on Spotify, Apple, all the places that you'd look for new music. Sounding great. I think that you'd expect nothing less from Dawes, and I believe this is the 7th studio album. So this is a band that hasn't quit in the name of adversity and just keeps getting better and better with time and age. Taylor and I have a mutual friend named Mike Viola, who I hope will be on a future episode of this podcast. I believe his name has come up in a few episodes that I've taped on here before. Mark Piro, who helps edit this podcast, I know him because of Mike. Mike was at my wedding, you know. He's one of my favorite musicians and people altogether. So we spoke a little bit about Mike, who Taylor has also worked with, and the new album, and I think I got some new stuff out of him where I was talking about his creative process and all that. Unfortunately, he does not seem to have metal roots, but as he kind of revealed during this interview, it's possible that Mike Viola and him might be doing something metal related in the future. Can't wait to hear that one if it does happen. Enjoy. Hey, Taylor, how's it going there, man?
Good. How are you doing? Is it okay that I have these headphones on and stuff?
Dude, dashing as always. Come on.
Cool. Okay.
But
It's like the light in here is crazy.
Blinding me with science. Well, really appreciate you taking the time to do this. Congrats on your new single, St. Augustine at Night. When did you actually make it compared to putting it out?
We recorded it in like May, June through there of last year. And we thought at the time, like, you know what, we're in the middle of a tour. We're always in the middle of a tour. Let's let Dawes fans get a little bit of a break. Let's start 2020 with being Mandy's band, my wife. She was going to go on a long tour. And then let's put our record out in, like, say, October. And that way we'll have given fans a breather from, like, asking them to buy tickets to Dawes shows. And then everybody took that same breather, so it kind of didn't work out that way. If we knew this would have happened, I would have rather just put out the record in February. But whatever, I'm really happy it's finally coming around.
Beautiful track. Was it one of many things recorded, or are you the kind of person that does like 2 or 3 songs at a time?
You mean like that song?
Yeah, in general. Like some people these days go, oh, I'm done with albums. It's all about a single when I'm motivated. And then other people go, well, I'm going to make an album and I'm going to do it in 2 or 3 song spells at a time. I have no idea your process, what it's like, other than this is going to be the 7th record.
Right. My process has typically been, here's 12 songs, let's find the right 10. Or here's 14 songs, let's find the right 12. You know, that kind of thing. That always presents itself. It always makes it clear which ones are working and which ones aren't. And I might be an old fart at this point about this, but like I can only think in terms of albums because that's how I digest my favorite material. Like I think that if, like the example that I've used in the past, I think if Dear Doctor by the Rolling Stones came out as a single, I might be a little bit like, I don't know, this doesn't really have like all of the gravitas of a Stones song. But when it's like framed around Sympathy for the Devil and Street Fighting Man on that same record, it lends them more power and itself gets better because there's this arc. It's not the Stones albums aren't 10 singles. It would be a little bit insane. They know how to like give you something that lives and breathes. And if in artists that are releasing music as singles, some of them I love, like some of those kinds of artists I love, but I find myself not willing to listen to 10 songs in a row because I'm just overwhelmed. So I've always thought in ways of like, how do songs lean on each other?
Mm-hmm. Well, I was trying to think, what can I ask Taylor that people don't usually ask him before? So I reached out to our mutual friend, Mike Viola.
I was just texting with him about you right before this. It's awesome.
Okay, word got out. So I said, Mike, what's Taylor really like? Because I've only seen you live opening up for ELO at the Garden. He said, Taylor is the most literate musician that I know, the biggest reader. I'm not saying that your lyrics are like not, overly full of references per se, but I wouldn't have picked that up about you. It doesn't seem to me like when I hear your music, that you're doing it like through a character's kind of perspective like Mike is, or am I totally wrong about that?
I'm definitely not doing it through a character's perspective. One thing I think, like one way that I feel like what I read is relevant to the way I write is the fact that I've never been able to get into poetry very well. Just a big dummy when it comes to that. Like when I was at the right ages, it's like, all right, Rimbaud, Verlaine, Baudelaire, T.S. Eliot. Like I really tried.
Yeah.
And I think it was the time in my life or whatever. I just kept coming up dry and kept coming up being like, I don't feel anything. I don't know anything. And so I kept going back to novels and just narrative. And so the things that fire me up are like if you recommend to me like a 1,200 page novel, some people be like, that's too much. That's my favorite thing. It takes me a long time. I'm a slow reader, but it's my favorite thing. So like I really get into, that's why I feel like my songs aren't, triple coated. I love those writers. I mean, I was just listening to the new Bright Eyes today. Mm-hmm. Conor Oberst has that quality where these songs like that, he finished that record a while ago, like January, February, and yet every song feels like it's about coronavirus because he's that kind of impressionistic writer. Mm-hmm. Whereas I don't have that. I think I'm more like, if there's a spectrum somewhere in the universe between Conor Oberst and John Prine, I'm probably a little bit further over next to John.
Yeah.
Just I like it when my songs, like my song feels done when the intended emotion is what you're intuiting. I've never been great at like please just interpret this, and it's just not how it comes out of me, even though I wish it was.
Yeah, there's some people who are excellent songwriters. Somebody like, say, Billy Joel, where he's saying exactly what he means. There's not a lot of hidden meaning. And I take a song like yours. The first Dawes song that really hooked me was Time Spent in Los Angeles. And it's such a meaningful song. It's simultaneously optimistic and pessimistic. But I don't think you're hiding behind anything in that. I don't think that that's a character. That's.
Oh yeah, that's and more or less always the case. I mean, I especially around then, like I've had this working theory, and this might offend people in their early 20s, but like at least for me as a writer and seemingly and like an immature future adult, like I was in a place where I didn't know what I didn't know like what was decent in terms of how much to talk about myself. You know, I would make like an 11-song record and just it's all about me because I assume that's what everyone does, and it's not.
Right.
And I look at in this one respect, I almost look at how you write a record is sort of like how you conduct yourself at a conversation at dinner. Like to a certain degree, it's like, here's what I'm going through, but also, how are you? Or also, let me share this anecdote about someone else I know and love, you know? And like, I think I was in those early records of mine, I was very much the guy at the table, was like, can we talk about my issues some more? And so Time Spent in Los Angeles, and a lot of those songs are very much like, here is what I'm going through. And if there's any like tactlessness about this, it is not occurring to me. And as time goes on as a writer, I think the ones that you see sticking around, I look at Elvis Costello as maybe one of my favorite examples of this. Early Elvis stuff feels very personal and very like close to his experiences. And when you get to LPs 8, 9, and 10 and 50, he's very good at occupying other people's experiences. It almost feels like a rite of passage. It almost feels like, okay, you've made it this far, and if you want to continue doing this, you can't keep putting yourself up on the surgeon's table. You have to start finding another way to breathe life into a song. And so songs like St. Augustine at Night are me trying to like, you know, push those walls further out and say like, I'm not for anybody else other than myself, but I need to be a writer that can talk about like just a human's experience rather than my own.
Speaking of Mike Viola, when you really nail him down a little bit and you find out what was the music that got him started. He really started on Ozzy and Black Sabbath and hard rock. And I'm assuming you know Danny Harrison based on the fact that you both were in that Jeff Lynne opening act world.
We've crossed paths, not then, but we crossed paths years and years before. I'm not sure if he remembers me or not, but it was, you know, he's a very lovely guy.
Well, when I interviewed him 2 years ago and I asked about what got him started on guitar, it wasn't the Beatles, it was Iron Maiden. Were you ever a metal guy?
I know you were. I know that you're like an encyclopedia of metal. Yeah. But I want to be. It's funny, my initial steps into like what I fell in love with. Like, of course, my dad was an R&B singer, so of course, you know, there was tons of Otis and Temptations and that sort of thing, and then the Beatles and the Stones. But it was really just like a diet for kids. Like, it's like you need to know this. This is a foundational stuff. And then when it came time for me to go out on my own and like Danny, like find the way he found Iron Maiden. For me, it was, for better or for worse, it was like Third Eye Blind and Matchbox 20 and just like whatever was on the rack at Blockbuster Video in like 1996. And for me, it was like, this is me falling in love with music. And with metal, there was never, like, Zeppelin was the closest thing when I was just learning how to play guitar in a serious way. And wanting to learn riffs and understand how they could build songs off of that. But I don't. Do they count? Are they a metal band? No.
Zeppelin?
Yeah.
Oh man, that. I know Jimmy Page hates it when you tell him that he's a metal artist, but every stupid VH1 countdown ever that says the best metal bands ever will be like Zeppelin 1 or 2 behind
Right.
Black Sabbath. But
And isn't it true that that's like that they invented the language in a lot of ways? I mean,
Yeah.
I'm sure that's debatable, but like just what they were doing.
yeah, I mean, the term heavy metal, oh, this is going to sound so nerdy. I mean, heavy metal comes from that Steppenwolf song from Easy Rider, the line Heavy Metal Thunder. And wait, was there also a Hendrix line about heavy metal? Whatever it is. Isn't that kind of the thing that like the people who invented punk rock hate being called punk?
I think any generation. I think like, Kurt Cobain hated the term grunge.
Yeah.
I get a little wincy when people say Laurel Canyon. Not that I'm not putting myself in the same sentence as Kurt Cobain on purpose. I shouldn't do that. But
I'll do that for you.
yeah.
Yeah.
But it's like nobody. I don't think anybody likes terminology because that's why you create a body of work. And the reality is, it doesn't. Especially with artists that are more like nuanced. I mean, like Zeppelin's a good example, but even Tom Petty or Bruce Springsteen, it's like what they do is singular. We can all agree on that for those of us that are familiar with their music. But if someone landing on planet Earth for the first time says like, what does Bruce Springsteen sound like? You're not going to get it right. It doesn't matter what you say. Like you could say words like blue collar, everyman, rock and roll, anthemic, like, and it's always going to come up short. And the same goes for like genre terms, unless you like just keep cutting up that pie and saying like 50 different things. And eventually it's like, whatever recipe you've created for these artists.
I'm surprised by that answer. I thought I was going to get my first album was Kiss, this album by Kiss, because your sense of melody, I mean, the Kiss guys admit that Big Star was an influence on them.
Love Big Star.
You never know where it comes from.
Yeah. That's, I mean, it's funny. Like, I don't want to give too much away, but Mike and I have actually like flirted with the idea of writing some hard rock songs together and figuring out some sort of like place for that.
I do hope that happens, and being super respectful of your time, because you are in the midst of what they call a press day. They are going to ask you some of the same questions I've asked about six more times probably.
Yeah.
So we know that there is a new album in the pipeline. We know that things are going very well. You've got this great new single, but is there anything I didn't cover that's upcoming for you?
Not really. I mean, things are so weird right now that we just don't know what the future holds. We look forward to touring again, but it's when you really like stop and think about that, it's pretty scary what that could mean. Like, no one knows what venues are going to be open, and they're going to be so rattled that the ones that are open aren't going to be able to like pay the way they used to. So bands are going to have to reconfigure how they tour. It's just so trippy to try to wrap our heads around what the future of rock and roll music for a living looks like. But we're staying positive. I mean, with all this extra time, I was able to like finish writing another record. So hopefully we'll be able to go record that soon.
And Mandy's album is excellent. I expected nothing less. You played a hand in that. Mike did as well. So hopefully see you both on the road in the near future. My usual closer is any last words for the kids. You kind of answered that, but anything else that we should be taking into account of the future generations that listen to Taylor?
Just learn on acoustic guitar before you switch to electric.
You're totally correct on that one. Otherwise, the parents and the noise and all.
Yeah, and also it's like those baseball players that swing 3 bats before they walk into the actual box and just swing 1. Like acoustic guitar makes it feel like you're running in sand, and then you pick up the electric and like, wow, this is a little easier. So it's a way to learn
before you get the calluses. Well, Taylor, can't thank you enough for your time here. Looking forward to the whole album and seeing you live in New York and all that. But keep up the greatness there, man.
Thank you so much.
Paltrocast.
Last but definitely not least is my interview with Ricky Starks, or Absolute Ricky Starks as he likes to be called. And this one was taped on August 31st. If you're not a wrestling fan, Ricky Starks is one of the latest big signings of AEW, or All Elite Wrestling. That one airs every Wednesday evening on TNT here in the States, TSN in Canada, Fight TV in the UK. I believe it is on ITV. Any way that you watch it, AEW has been on the air for less than a year, but it's already been picked up for another 3-4 years by TNT. It's a big deal. And Ricky Starks is somebody that I interviewed for the first time towards the beginning of this pandemic. While we were talking, he made a reference to, I think, Ambrosia, or one of the soft rock bands I really do like. I like what's called yacht rock. And I kind of realized, wow, there's a lot more to this guy than wrestling. A lot of wrestlers you speak with, wrestling is really their number one hobby and all that. There's not a lot of hobbies or interests otherwise. In the case of Ricky, yeah, he's a wrestling diehard, but there's music and fashion and art and all sorts of things. So I wanted to speak with Ricky again, and this time ask about music and all that, but also ask what it's like now being on television almost every week for a really, really big company, how that's changed his life and all that, and also being somebody that covers the travel beat a bit. I want to ask about him living in Austin, Texas, because he's always introduced as being from New Orleans. Great guy. In fact, such a great guy that I think he almost might start watch wrestling because of hearing somebody this intelligent and interesting and informed and all that. Hope you like it.
Ricky Starks is one of my favorite people to watch on AEW Dynamite each week because there's the charisma there. There's clearly the work ethic there. Ricky Starks is just great. But when I think about Ricky Starks, I don't know much about Ricky Starks. Is that kind of by design that you're one of the few people that has mystique in wrestling these days?
I guess I really don't know. See, the thing is I'm a pretty private person. So I don't always care to share a bunch of stuff online, or even like film stuff, you know what I'm saying? So there's that aspect of it too, but sometimes people just don't ask me. So if you don't ask, I won't tell.
By that, I mean that you're branded so well that you could see something and go, Ricky Starks would do that, Ricky Starks wouldn't do that. But then, like, how do you describe who Ricky Starks is or what he is besides that's a charismatic, energetic guy? Like, if I hear a song, I think I could go, Ricky Starks would like that, or Ricky Starks wouldn't like that. So, so is that by design?
Dude, that's a great question. I don't think it's by design. I think that's just how I am. Obviously I like hearing that. Like that's great because everyone seems to take the easy way. I don't want to be too relatable to people to try to win over their fanfare. And me personally, I don't care to do that. If there's something that you can relate to me about, then that's cool. But I'm not about to, go online and try to do all this other stuff. The thing with me is that I think too many people try to make me a character and try to describe me as something. And I never saw myself as that. What you see is what you get. Like, this is who I am outside of wrestling. And people have a hard time to believe that. I don't know why. But yeah, this is, I like the fact that you see things and you think of me. I love that because that tells me that I'm doing something right. Whether that's by design or not, I think it all has worked out perfectly.
Well, there's an old story about Tommy Dreamer, who's been in and out of AEW, where he had an argument with an unnamed ECW executive who said that Tommy Dreamer would never drive that kind of car. They had some kind of a thing where I think Tommy Dreamer showed up in a Mercedes. And he said, Tommy Dreamer would never drive that. That's not possible. And like Ricky Starks, for example, would not drive a minivan. He wouldn't have Trent's mom's minivan.
Right.
The video that plays as you come to the ring shows a Ferrari or a Porsche or something like that. That's a Ricky Starks car.
Yes. That's a great point, actually. I think, dude, man, you've really made me think about something I didn't think of before. I guess there is some type of branding when it comes to how I look and how I present myself. And I'm all for that. You're absolutely right. There's certain things that you wouldn't see me do. I don't even own a minivan. And I don't even like driving the rentals. So, absolutely. I agree with that 1000%. I think for me though is I am just keep this in mind. For me, it's very important to be as authentic and genuine as possible because I don't think that we get that a lot of the times in wrestling.
Right.
And so obviously I know that I'm going to have people who will say, oh, I don't get it. I don't get Ricky Starks. I don't know what he is. And what I say to that is maybe there isn't just, maybe it isn't supposed to be something that you get. Why can't it just be someone who is who he is and he acts the way he does because I'm from New Orleans. Like everyone acts like that. So it's normal to me.
That makes a lot of sense. The last time I had the pleasure of interviewing you, vinyl and music came up. Have you always been a vinyl collector?
Not always. I think I got into it when I was like 28, 27. So a few years ago, a fan gifted me a turntable and they gave me the Lionel Richie vinyl. That was my first vinyl.
Can't
And then from there, huh?
Can't Slow Down by Lionel Richie?
Is that the one where he's like posed?
Yeah.
I have it actually. I have it. That's my first one. Dancing on the Ceiling's on there, I believe. And so so from there it started. Honestly, dude, I just got a new vinyl not too long ago. Or really like one of my favorites, Grover Washington Jr.
Oh yeah.
I just got. Yeah. So I'm loving it. I'm slowly adding it. Keep in mind, I don't get all vinyl. Like there's certain things that I want to hear in that way.
Yeah.
So I'll go in and find that. Otherwise, I'll just have Spotify and then just listen to it on there. But God, the Grover Washington Jr. album is so great to hear. Just the scratches, just all of it is so good.
Absolutely. And if you like Grover Washington Jr., you like Lionel Richie, that means you like yacht rock.
I do. I love yacht rock. I don't know if you remember the series that used to come on YouTube where they would go through different episodes about certain artists.
Oh yeah, the Channel 101 thing with has like a fake David Lee Roth yelling at the Doobie Brothers or something.
Well, yeah, there's like an episode of how the Doobie Brothers song came about. You remember those? Those guys would do like parodies of it. Yeah, I used to watch those all the time. But dude, I love yacht rock, and honestly, I think it's yacht rock, and I love soft rock. I just love that whole time period.
But your in-ring entrance song is still pretty damn on brand. I don't know what you would call that genre-wise. Like, is it hard rock soul? What would you call it?
So Curtis Mayfield. Yeah, what would you consider Curtis Mayfield to be?
Well, soul, you got to say he's a soul artist, but he did have some rock tendencies. That Superfly soundtrack, Pusher Man and all that, that's some rock right there. Freddie's Dead and all that.
Exactly. So that's really where that theme song is kind of based off of. Those horns and everything. It's very like stadium status sound. So I would consider that a little bit funk rock. You know what I'm saying? A little funk rock. There's elements of like some Ohio players in it. There's definitely elements of Curtis in there. Stuff like that. I really love DJ Roger. He's good. Passed away, unfortunately, but he's great. So those different elements. Honestly, hear me out. Isaac Hayes elements are all through that theme song.
And was that theme song, if you're not allowed to say, don't say it, or just go next question. Was it done by an in-house AEW composer, the theme song?
Yeah, it was done by Ruckus. Ruckus did it, and I didn't hear the song until I actually came out for my match with Cody. So
wow,
I love it, and obviously there's room for growth in that theme song too. Like it can be made for some edits there.
Now, you personally, I know that you're an encyclopedia for wrestling, and I'm learning that you know your stuff with music too. Is there anything else hobby-wise that comes close? Like, always fashionable. You always change up your gear and all that. No one wears shoes like you do to the ring. My wife's like, did you see Ricky's shoes? Okay, I didn't, but now I do. Is there anything else that comes close to music and wrestling for you?
Art. I love art too. I love certain types of art. But honestly, that's really the main things that I really love and I'm bringing forth in wrestling. Obviously fashion, music, wrestling. Those are the main three things that I enjoy, obviously. So yeah, when it comes to those three, I think that's about it. I'm slowly getting hobbies as I'm getting older, which is cool. But I think for right now, I really enjoy those three and combining them.
Now, that's cool to hear that you're evolving and you're learning and you're growing and all that, because now you've been in wrestling like 10 years, 12 years, something like that?
Yeah, so 10 years coming up in October. Because I started in 2011. Oh, no, not 10 years. Wait.
Almost 10-ish?
Yeah, it's 10-ish years. Yeah, my anniversary comes up in October 14th. So, yeah, it's been a very long journey. And obviously, I've seen things change from the independents up all the way to the top.
For sure.
So it's really cool to see at least that growth.
And being in AEW, being on weekly television in a big way and all that, does that really change your life a lot? Because you said at the top of this that you're a private person.
Yeah.
Is being a celebrity difficult for you, or is it just natural because you've always had this charisma to you?
I don't find it difficult in the sense of, case in point, like I remember I made a status about like bringing my PlayStation 2 to play over the weekend. And people are like, oh, you're going to stream it? And it's like, you don't have to film everything that happens.
Totally.
And some guy had responded with, I was complaining and, I can't handle the celebrity status. And it was such a very, the attitude of it was very, what's the word, entitled. So it's like, I'm okay with being a celebrity because I have the option to not show certain things that I don't want to, and not have to feel some type of ownership. No one has ownership over me, so I don't have to do certain things if I don't want to. But I'm absolutely fine with it. I don't look at myself as a celebrity or anything. I look at myself as someone of importance,
I say celebrity because if you go at this precise time and flight path and all that, people will be like, that's that guy from TV. I mean, when you have close to 1 million people watching you a week in the States, plus the people in Canada and Europe and all that.
And YouTube, yeah. It's over. As far as total views go, we're over 1 million.
Exactly. So bring it all back to AEW a little bit. Working with Taz, is he somebody that you'd met before AEW ever?
No, that was actually my first time meeting Taz. And first time working with Taz. I'd met Cage before on the Indies, and he's great. But that was my really first time meeting Taz, talking to him. I remember he came up to me after my first match with Cody and was giving me compliments as far as the match goes and how he was impressed and stuff like that. So I think the partnership has been so beneficial to not only me but everyone involved that I enjoy it. I think Taz is great.
It's a great contrast between your personalities, to say the very, very least. And it almost makes me as a fan wonder, will you start influencing Taz? Will he start dressing better? Will he start, embracing different things? Is that a possibility that we might eventually see in the storyline?
I don't know if you'll have Taz come out in some Gucci slides, but I think you'll catch Taz walking some loafers with no socks and shorts and a nice little polo. You know what I'm saying? I think we'll catch Taz with that and a nice cigar in his hand. That's a possibility for sure.
That would be a wonderful thing indeed. And you personally, your build as being from New Orleans, you are known to be a resident of Austin. Austin is one of the coolest cities in the U.S. It's the San Francisco of Texas. What brought you out there?
Initially, I was out there from just basically my mom she's a nurse, so she came out there to find a better opportunity as far as jobs go. And that's kind of where it just started from there. I found the school to train at, and then it just snowballed from there. And it's hard there's no other place besides New Orleans that I would think about living, just because I love the weather here. Everything is really cool. Everything is hiking. You got greenery. Everything is available to me that I enjoy. So I really do like Austin quite a bit, though I will always rock New Orleans, as long as I live.
Right. It seems like Austin might be like the 5th city of wrestling right now, without naming too many names. A lot of talent down there, but they didn't necessarily move there because their mothers were changing careers per se. Do you?
Right.
Is it that wrestlers are moving there because it's cool, or is there actually a big wrestling scene in Austin that we don't know about?
Well, I'm trying to think of who else is from Austin.
Well, Undertaker, Mark Henry, I believe, lives there. The Miz talks about being there. Sammy G.
Oh, well, Sammy actually lives in Houston. As far as I know, it's me, Taker, and Mark Henry that live here. And I think Kofi also lives here too. Miz moved back to California. But I think people enjoyed Austin just for the fact that, one, you don't have that state, I think it's state income tax or something like that you have to deal with. And two, it's just good weather year round. So, you have those with you. And then the views of certain areas are beautiful. I don't think that Austin is necessarily a hotbed for wrestling. There's a few shows that are still current here, but for the most part, I think you'll find that Austin is like a suburb of some of the hotter spots, which would be Houston and Dallas, in my opinion, as far as independents go. So but don't get me wrong, like Inspire, that's pretty reputable, and they're based out of here and from here as well.
Well, 2-3 quick questions, then you're on your way because you're a busy man. Everybody knows that by now. First, is there a highlight for you so far in being part of the AEW team?
Highlight. Since I've been there, right?
Yeah.
Man, that's a great question. I think the highlight for me has been how easily integrated I've gotten myself into the whole system. And a lot of the people backstage, I feel like, have taken a liking to me. I don't feel like I'm some type of outcast. I've gelled in pretty well with the whole roster. So I think that's pretty cool, just because a month ago I was virtually unknown to these people. And now I think people have a little bit of respect for me as far as what I can do and stuff like that.
Absolutely. Ricky Starks is, as we were talking about, this charismatic person that has just tremendous upside. I keep complimenting you. Deal with it. What can you do? But is there anything that you think that people have wrong about you in general that you wish were focusing on instead of the things I've been talking about?
Not really, because I find any type of criticism against me to be funny when it's not valid criticism. You know what I'm saying? So I've heard everything out of the book. People don't like the way I dress. I look too much like some other people. I'm not that good. I can't cut a promo, stuff like that. I've heard, and I find it to be funny because it's all subjective. It's really all subjective. Yeah. But at the end of the day, I just focus on the people that actually support me, that actually like me, they get me, and that outweighs the negative more than anything.
Makes sense to me. So the closer, Ricky, any last words for the kids?
I could sit up here and give something very motivational. I don't think I have to, because my career is pretty motivating as it is.
Yeah.
But if there's one thing I want to close off with, is that everyone should listen to the group Ambrosia at least once in their life. At least once. And I promise you'll be a fan for life. They are absolutely amazing. I love Ambrosia. Some of the best moments have been filled with them in the background playing. And just give it a shot.
I mean, here's a little fun fact about Ambrosia. The singer David Pack was the musical director for Bill Clinton's inauguration for U.S. presidency. So if he was Clinton approved, that's pretty cool.
I love that. Yeah. I really thought, side note, I really thought you were going to say that Ambrosia had a small part in the rock musical theater War of the Worlds. But because there's certain people who singers at least, and that whole thing that sounds just like the lead singer from Ambrosia.
You're right. David Pack, I think, is his name. Well, you just taught me something new. So Ricky Starks, what can he do? He teaches you, he inspires, etc. I can't thank you enough for your time, man.
Thank you, bro. I appreciate this.
Paltrocast.
Thanks for checking out the Paltrocast with Darren Paltrowitz, produced by V13 Media. Theme song by Steve Schiltz. Audio mixing by Mark Piro. Until next time, have a great Shabbos.
Paltrocast.